Eastern Canadian provinces are imposing strict forest closures due to extreme wildfire risk, with Nova Scotia and Newfoundland Labrador levying huge fines, even jail time for violators. Now, supporters say it's a necessary precaution to protect lives and property, while critics are arguing it's an infringement of personal freedoms and possibly constitutional rights. Eddie, this was the Premier just over a week ago. Announcing a ban. They had no wildfires burning of any significance in the province at that point in time. But as you heard, all of the information they were receiving was that, we are a tinderbox waiting for something to happen. Now, on top of that, Newfoundland and Labrador, again, one of those areas where you don't hear anything about wildfires very often, and they've got a couple of dandies, including one that just keeps growing, and at last I heard was just approaching the outskirts of St. John's. Let's have a look at a couple of things here. Let's start off with the forest bans, safety, or overreach. Public safety versus civil liberties, it's a balancing act, always is, especially in emergency situations. And I can tell you, knowing a number of people involved in emergency management organizations, they do not take any of this lightly. When they're making a recommendation or making a call, they do not take it lightly, contrary to what some people may think. That's not the case. And the other thing to remember is not only are these people dedicated to trying to protect lives and property to the best of their ability, never mind what's, some of the politics involved behind the scenes leading up to this or after the event, but focus on the situation at hand. They do not take this lightly in any manner. Exactly. And when you watch the training that's involved for them as well, which they're doing all the time, again, I can assure you from my personal knowledge that there are top-level people, dedicated people, and they will challenge the politicians if there's any kind of a pushback as to, maybe do we need this restriction? Yes, you do, and this is why. Penalties with teeth. Well, here's the question: are they proportionate? And I'd love for some of our viewers to weigh in on this one. Do you think like a $75,000 fine and 6 months in jail if you don't pay it? Do you think that that's a little heavy-handed over the fact that you violated a ban on either going into the forest or going into the forest and lighting a campfire or having a fire in your backyard when there's a burn ban on? Do you think that it's proportionate? I've got a few thoughts on that we'll get into a little bit later. Public perception, principle, mistrust, inconvenience. On the principle of I have rights under the Constitution. Yes, you have rights under the Constitution, but you also have a responsibility in a democracy to use some common sense at times. Mistrust, this goes back to the conspiracy theories that started blowing up on social media during the pandemic.
Right.
And then you roll into all of the anti-vaxxers. Well, you can't do this, you can't do that. Well, you know what? Think about the people that you're endangering by not getting your vaccination or not wearing your mask because you think it's your God-given right under the Constitution. You might be a little bit surprised at some point if some of this stuff ends up at the Supreme Court of Canada. And inconvenience. More than anything else, there's a growing, and it's unfortunately a very healthy feeling, sentiment of self-entitlement in this country. And so, yes, a lot of people would say it's an inconvenience. It is until all of a sudden you have maybe an hour, They come knocking on your door an hour to get out of your house, get out of the area, and you lose your house. Think about that for a moment. And that's a very good point. That let me go to our other shot here. Back on my right page, and let's do this and bring this up. Deborah weighs in right away with, ask anyone who has had to run for their life during a forest fire. Exactly what that feeling is like. And believe me, it's not something anyone really, really wants to experience at any point in time. A couple of other things. The wildfire season severity. Canada is experiencing its second worst wildfire season on record.
Yeah.
With an area impact. Yeah.
Already.
Yeah. And the area impacted is over 72,000 square kilometers. That was as of last week. That's equivalent to the size of New Brunswick. That's the entire province of New Brunswick going up in flames, if you want some kind of a comparison.
And that's in terms of Canada-wide right now?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah. One province, if it was all centered in one province, the province of New Brunswick, it would be wiped off the map. It'd just be one big black hole.
Yeah.
Then you have historical context. This surpasses the 1989 season and is about half the area burned in the record-setting season of 2023. Half the area so far.
Mm-hmm.
Because we have a lot of, pardon the pun, ground to cover before we get to the end of wildfire season. The official end of wildfire season is October 15th. And the ban in Nova Scotia is on until October 15th, unless conditions. Unless conditions improve dramatically.
Or they can worsen.
Yeah, exactly. And as a matter of fact, they had a fire last night in the Bears Lake area outside of Halifax. Just boom, sparked up. I haven't heard what caused it. Could have been lightning. Could have been a spark from something. Could have been a tossed cigarette butt. Or it could have been a Yahoo going in and, can't stop me. It's my right. In lighting a bonfire, because already one person has been handed a $28,000 ticket in total in Nova Scotia, and the play on it was that he's a veteran and he was handed a $28,000 ticket, and apparently he decided to go into the woods to prove a point.
Mm-hmm.
That he could do it and do it safely, and that there was no need to close off the woods completely. I don't get the mentality of this. And then I watched a YouTube video last night, and I went looking for it today, and it's gone. Supposedly anonymous, issuing a warning to Canadians about the wildfire bans and blah, 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 blah. I wish you could have seen the comments, because I was going to bring it up not for the video itself, because it's not verified that it's actually anonymous, but for the comments, comment after comment of people who just not thinking before they type and then hit post.
Mm-hmm.
Just not thinking. People, don't be so freaking selfish.
Yeah, and you know what the interesting thing is as well, Gary, is these individuals you're speaking about, or they've got their cap on, or their cape that says it's my right, my constitutional rights, and so on and so forth. As you were saying, you're going to have a constable knocking on their door to evacuate within an hour if they have that much. They're the first ones to request restitution from the county, the community, or the government to help them with disaster relief when they were so critical of the decision of the government to do what they need to do to protect everybody and to protect property and the land. They're going to be the first ones crying grief that I need help from the government because my house just burnt down, and so on and so forth. And you know what? I'm always adamant about you can have it both ways. This is one of those situations where you can have it both ways. And like you were saying, think before you press that enter button or post something that makes absolutely zero sense and makes you look very foolhardy in public. And as you, Gary, that infuriates me as well to no end.
$25,000 for a fine. Sometimes you really have to throw the hammer down in order for it to start to sink into people that we're not fooling around with this. And then you go over to Newfoundland and Labrador, and you heard how frustrated Premier Hogan was in having to sit down and say, we have to do this, because they had people going into the woods. They caught them. And the same in Cape Breton in Nova Scotia, the same thing. They were going into the woods after the ban was put on.
50% plus of forest fires across the entire country are because of the human factor. I mean, everybody's going to say, well, it's nature and it's lightning strikes and whatnot. Statistically, it's a little more than 50% of forest fires that get started in this country is because of human beings. And